Brother-in-law made a pass at me in the kitchen during Thanksgiving dinner, and when I told my sister, she accused me of trying to seduce him because I am jealous of her marriage. So I left and blocked the entire family. I've been trying to figure out how to write this down for a few hours now, and honestly, my hands are still shaking a little bit. I'm 24, female. My sister Zara is 26, and she has been married to her husband Nolan for about 3 years. We grew up in a household where appearances were basically the most important thing to my parents, especially my mother. So there is this whole dynamic where we pretend everything is fine even when it is. I work as a barista right now while I'm finishing up some online courses for graphic design. Zara and Nolan are very successful. He works in finance or something with investments, and she runs a boutique marketing agency. They have this big house in the suburbs and the nice cars and the whole perfect image. I've been single for a while, mostly because I'm focusing on school and work, and I don't really have the energy for dating apps. My family makes comments about it pretty often, implying that I'm falling behind or that there's something wrong with me because I'm not settled down like Zara is. Nolan has always been the golden boy to my parents. He's charismatic and pays for all the big family dinners, and he knows exactly what to say to charm my mom. For the first year or so that they were together, I thought he was great too. He seemed really attentive to Zara and made an effort to include me in things, which I appreciated because I often feel like the odd one out in my family. But about a year ago, things started to feel a little bit off with him. It wasn't anything huge at first, just little comments here and there. Like we were at a barbecue last summer, and I was wearing shorts because it was 90 degrees out. Nolan made a comment about how my legs looked stronger than Zara's. It was framed as a compliment, I guess, but the way he said it made me feel uncomfortable. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to make a scene, and I figured maybe I was just being sensitive. Then there were times when he would hug me hello or goodbye, and the hug would last just a couple of seconds too long. You know that feeling when someone presses into you a little too hard? It was like that. I tried to avoid being alone in a room with him after that started happening. I thought maybe I was imagining it, or maybe he's just a touchy-feely person. My family is not very affectionate physically, so maybe I just wasn't used to it. But looking back, there were definitely signs that he didn't respect boundaries. He would interrupt me when I was talking, or he would make jokes at my expense that were just mean enough to hurt, but joked enough that if I got mad, I would look like the one with no sense of humor. Zara never said anything when he did this. She would usually just laugh along or look at her phone. So this whole mess happened at Thanksgiving dinner yesterday. My parents were hosting, but they recently downsized to a condo, so Zara and Nolan offered to host at their big house to accommodate everyone comfortably. I was nervous about going over there because I hadn't seen them in a few weeks, and things have been kind of tense since I skipped Zara's birthday dinner due to work. She took it really personally and said I was being unsupportive. I got to their house around 2 p.m. My mom was already there, hovering over the food and critiquing how Zara was setting the table. My dad was in the living room watching football with Nolan and Nolan's brother, who I don't know very well. The vibe in the house was actually okay at first. Nolan seemed to be in a good mood, playing the perfect host, getting everyone drinks and taking coats. I went into the kitchen to help Zara and my mom with the final prep. We were mashing potatoes and dealing with the green bean casserole. Zara seemed stressed, which is normal for her when she's hosting. She wants everything to be Instagram perfect. I tried to make conversation with her, asking about her business and stuff. She gave me short answers and kept checking her reflection in the microwave door, fixing her hair. Around 4 p.m., we sat down to eat. The dinner itself was fine, I guess. Nolan sat at the head of the table, and I was seated on his right, with Zara across from me. He kept refilling my wine glass without asking. I'm not a big drinker, so I was trying to sip slowly, but every time I looked down, the glass was full again. He made a toast about family and how grateful he was for everyone. Everyone clinked glasses. My mom looked like she was about to cry tears of joy because her life looked so picture perfect in that moment. During dinner, Nolan kept looking at me. Not in a conversational way, but just staring. When I would catch his eye, he would smile this smirk that didn't reach his eyes. I tried to focus on talking to my dad about the football game, even though I don't really care about sports. I just wanted to avoid engaging with Nolan. After we finished eating, everyone was groaning about being full. My mom and dad went to the living room to have coffee. Zara said she needed to go upstairs to freshen up and change into something more comfortable because her dress was tight. I started clearing the table because I wanted to be helpful, and it gave me something to do with my hands. Nolan stayed at the table for a minute, finishing his wine, and then stood up. I thought he was going to join the others in the living room. I carried a stack of plates into the kitchen and started rinsing them off at the sink. The kitchen is this open concept thing, but the sink is in a corner that isn't directly visible from the living room hallway. The dishwasher was running and there was music playing on the speakers, so it was kind of noisy. I was scrubbing a serving dish when I felt someone come up behind me. I thought it was my mom coming to tell me I was loading the dishwasher wrong, but then I felt a hand on my waist. It wasn't a move over tap, it was a grip. I froze. I dropped the sponge I was holding. Nolan's voice was right by my ear. He said something like, "You look really good in that sweater, better than Zara would." My stomach dropped. I felt like I was going to throw up. I tried to pull away, stepping to the side, but he moved with me, effectively blocking me between the counter and the island. I turned around to face him, putting my hands up to create space. I asked him what he was doing. My voice sounded really small, which annoyed me because I wanted to sound angry. He just laughed, low in his throat. He said I didn't need to be so uptight and that we were family. Then he reached out and brushed a piece of hair behind my ear, letting his fingers trail down my neck. It was so creepy and invasive. I slapped his hand away. I told him to stop touching me. He looked surprised for a second, then angry. He said I was making a big deal out of nothing and that he was just being nice. Then he stepped closer again, crowding me. He whispered that he knew I was lonely and that he could tell I liked him by the way I looked at him during dinner. I was so shocked I couldn't even speak for a second. I have never, ever looked at him like that. I have actively avoided him because he makes me uncomfortable. I shoved past him, hitting my shoulder against his chest. I walked fast out of the kitchen, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. He didn't follow me, he just stayed in the kitchen. I went straight to the downstairs bathroom and locked the door. I sat on the closed toilet lid and just breathed for a few minutes, trying to stop shaking. I debated just leaving right then. I could tell my parents I wasn't feeling well, but I felt like if I left without saying anything, he would get away with it, and I would be the weird sister who ruined Thanksgiving by storming out. I also felt like I owed it to Zara to tell her. If my husband was hitting on my sister in our kitchen while I was upstairs, I would want to know. So I washed my face, unlocked the door, and went to find Zara. I saw her coming down the stairs. She had changed into leggings and a sweater. I asked her if we could talk in private for a second. She looked annoyed, like she knew I was going to complain about mom or something. We went into the den, which has doors that close. I shut the doors. I didn't know how to say it, so I just blurted it out. I told her that Nolan had cornered me in the kitchen and touched me and said things that were inappropriate. I told her exactly what he said about the sweater and about me being lonely. Zara just stared at me. Her face didn't move. I thought she was processing the shock. Then she crossed her arms and let out this big sigh, like she was disappointed in a toddler. She asked me if I had been drinking. I said I had 2 glasses of wine over 3 hours. I was completely sober. She said, "Nolan told me you were acting weird all night. He said you kept staring at him." I felt like I had been slapped. I told her that wasn't true, that he was staring at me and that's why I was uncomfortable. She shook her head and started talking really loudly. She said, "I can't believe you would do this today, on Thanksgiving." I asked her what she meant. She said it was obvious that I was jealous of her life and her marriage. She said I had always been jealous of her because she did everything right and I was still working at a coffee shop. She accused me of trying to seduce Nolan because I wanted what she had. She said Nolan is a faithful husband and that he would never look at someone like me when he has her. I was stunned. I tried to argue, to tell her that he touched me, that he was the one who initiated it. She cut me off and said, "Stop lying. You're pathetic. You just want attention." She opened the den doors and walked out. I stood there for a second, feeling completely alone. I could hear her voice in the hallway, talking to my mom, but I couldn't make out the words. I knew I couldn't stay there. I grabbed my purse from the entry table. Nolan walked out of the kitchen with a fresh glass of wine. He looked at me and he had this smug look on his face. He knew Zara wouldn't believe me. He knew exactly how this family works. I put my coat on and walked out the front door without saying goodbye to anyone. My hands were shaking so bad I had to sit in my car for 10 minutes before I could drive. I just cried. I felt so dirty and betrayed, not just by Nolan, but by my own sister. I blocked Zara, Nolan, my mom, and my dad on my phone before I even started the car. I couldn't deal with the texts I knew were coming. Now I'm back at my apartment. It's been about 4 hours. I've been staring at the wall, replaying the kitchen scene over and over, wondering if I did something to encourage him. But I know I didn't. I wore a bulky sweater and jeans. I barely spoke to him. I feel like I've lost my entire family in one night, and the worst part is that they're all probably sitting around eating pie and talking about how unstable I am. Update: so it's been about 5 days since Thanksgiving, and things have honestly gotten so much worse and so much more confusing. I posted originally just to get it out of my head, but I guess I need to write this down to keep my own sanity because the gaslighting is on another level right now. I mentioned that I blocked everyone before I left the driveway. Well, that lasted about 12 hours. The next morning, I woke up with this pit in my stomach. I felt guilty, which is stupid because I was the one who was harassed, but that's how my brain works, I guess. I started thinking maybe I should unblock them just to see if anyone apologized or if my mom wanted to hear my side of the story. So I unblocked my mom and Zara. Almost immediately, my phone started blowing up with notifications that had been backed up. There were about 10 texts from my mom. They started out asking where I went, then got angry, saying I was rude for leaving without saying goodbye. Then the later ones were just hurtful. She said things like, "Zara is devastated that you would try to ruin her holiday, and we raised you better than to throw yourself at your sister's husband." I read that and just felt sick. Zara had obviously spun the narrative immediately. Then I saw a text from Zara. It was just a long paragraph about how she feels sorry for me and hopes I get the help I need. She said she's willing to forgive me if I apologize to Nolan for making him uncomfortable and admit that I was lying. She said Nolan told us everything. How you were brushing up against him in the kitchen and making suggestions. It's embarrassing. I literally threw my phone on the couch. The absolute lie of it. I didn't respond to anyone. I couldn't. I just sat there drinking coffee and feeling like I was in the twilight zone. Then, around noon on Friday, I got a text from a number I didn't have saved, but I recognized it. It was Nolan. I had deleted his number, but hadn't blocked him on that specific messaging app because we never use it. The message said, "Hey, look, I think things got blown out of proportion last night. I know you've been lonely and maybe had too much wine. I'm flattered, honestly, but let's just sweep this under the rug for Zara's sake. She's really upset." I stared at that message for 20 minutes. It was so manipulative. He was creating a paper trail. He was texting me as if I had hit on him, just in case I showed the messages to anyone. But then, about 2 minutes later, another message came through from him. "Also, you didn't seem to mind when I touched your neck. You froze up. That's usually a yes." I felt cold all over. That second message proved he touched me. He admitted it, but he twisted it to make it sound like I liked it. I screenshotted both messages immediately. I didn't reply to him. I just blocked the number. On Saturday, my dad called. I usually get along better with my dad than my mom. He's quieter and usually stays out of the drama. So I answered, thinking maybe he would be reasonable. I was wrong. He sounded tired and disappointed. He started giving me this lecture about how family is the most important thing and how I need to stop acting out to get attention. I tried to tell him what really happened. I said, "Dad, he cornered me. He touched me without my consent." My dad sighed and said, "Nolan is a good man. He provides for your sister. He's never given us any reason to doubt him. You, on the other hand, you know you can be dramatic." I asked him what he meant. He brought up some incident from when I was 16 where I accused a cousin of stealing money from me, and it turned out I had just lost it. I couldn't believe he was comparing a lost $20 bill from high school to sexual harassment. I told him about the text from Nolan. I said he admitted he touched my neck. My dad paused for a second. Then he said, "If he touched you, I'm sure it was in a comforting way and you misinterpreted it because you were emotional. You need to apologize to your sister." I hung up on him. I didn't even say goodbye. I just pressed the red button. I realized then that it doesn't matter what the truth is. My parents have decided that Zara and Nolan are the success story and I am the failure. To believe me would mean admitting that their perfect son-in-law is a creep and their golden child's marriage isn't perfect. They would rather sacrifice me than shatter that illusion. I spent the rest of the weekend in my apartment with the blinds closed. I felt paranoid, like they were going to show up at my door. I started thinking about all the other times I had felt weird around Nolan. The comments, the looks, and I realized that Zara probably knows. She has to know. She's not stupid. She sees how he looks at women. She probably saw how he looked at me at dinner, but her entire identity is wrapped up in being the wife of this successful, handsome guy. If she admits he's a predator, she loses her status. She loses the house, the money, the image. It's easier for her to paint me as the jealous, slutty sister than to face the reality that her husband tried to cheat on her in her own kitchen. Yesterday, Monday, I went to work. I was distracted all day. I messed up orders. My manager asked if I was okay, and I just said I had a family emergency. When I got home, there was a card in my mailbox. It was a thinking of you card from my mom. Inside, she had written, "We love you and we forgive you. Please come to Sunday dinner so we can put this behind us. Nolan is willing to move past it if you are." It made me so angry I actually tore it in half. They aren't trying to fix things with me. They are trying to silence me. They want me to come back, play nice, and accept the blame so that their world goes back to normal. If I go back, I'm admitting I did something wrong. I'm giving Nolan permission to do it again because he knows I won't be believed. So I made a decision last night. I blocked everyone. Mom, Dad, Zara, Nolan, even the landline at my parents' house. I texted my landlord and asked if I could break my lease early. I don't feel safe here anymore. They all know where I live. They all have keys to my apartment because I gave a spare set to my mom for emergencies. I changed the locks myself this morning. I watched a YouTube video and bought a kit from the hardware store. It's probably not done perfectly, but the key turns and the old key doesn't work. I'm sitting here now wondering if I'm overreacting. Maybe I should just ignore them and stay in my apartment. Moving is expensive and I don't have a lot of savings. But then I think about Nolan's text. That's usually a yes. He thinks my fear was consent. That terrifies me. I don't know what their next move is going to be. My family isn't used to being told no. They aren't used to me setting boundaries. I have a feeling they aren't going to just let me disappear. Final update. I didn't think I would be writing this so soon, or that it would end like this. I honestly thought that blocking them and changing my locks would be enough to just let the situation fizzle out. I figured they would gossip about me for a few months, and then eventually leave me alone because I wasn't playing their game anymore. I was wrong. Things escalated way past just texts and phone calls. 2 days after my last update, I was at home on my day off. I was packing up some boxes because my landlord agreed to let me break the lease if I was out by the first of the month. I had found a room to rent in a different part of the city with a girl I kind of knew from college. It was around 7 p.m. It was already dark outside. I heard a car pull up outside my building. I live on the first floor of a small complex, so I hear everything. Then I heard aggressive knocking on my door. Not the normal knock of a delivery driver, but pounding. I looked through the peephole. It was Nolan. He was alone. He looked disheveled, which is weird for him because he's usually in a suit and perfectly groomed. He was wearing jeans and a hoodie. I didn't open the door. I stepped back and grabbed my phone. He started yelling my name. "Open the door, we need to talk." I stayed quiet. I was hoping he would think I wasn't home. My car was parked around the back, so he couldn't see it from the front. But then he started kicking the bottom of the door. "I know you're in there. Zara is crying her eyes out because of you. You need to fix this." He sounded slurred, like he was drunk. My neighbor, Connor, lives in the unit across the hall. Connor is this big guy who works construction and keeps to himself, but we say hi in the hallway. I heard Connor's door open. I heard Connor say, "Hey man, keep it down. People are trying to sleep." Nolan yelled back, "Mind your own business. This is a family matter." I was terrified that Nolan was going to hurt Connor or that Connor was going to get dragged into my mess. So I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door just a crack, keeping the chain on. I said, "Nolan, leave. I'm calling the police." Nolan saw me and lunged at the door. He hit it with his shoulder. The chain held, but the wood cracked. It was the scariest sound I've ever heard. He shouted, "You little liar. You ruined everything. You need to come with me and tell Zara the truth." Connor stepped out into the hallway fully then. He grabbed Nolan by the back of his hoodie and pulled him away from my door. Connor said, "She said, leave, buddy. You need to go." Nolan spun around and swung at Connor. It was a sloppy punch, but it connected with Connor's jaw. I screamed. I slammed my door shut and locked it, then fumbled with my phone to call 911. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the phone twice. I could hear scuffling in the hallway, grunting and the sound of bodies hitting the wall. I told the dispatcher that my brother-in-law was attacking my neighbor and trying to break into my apartment. By the time I got off the phone, the hallway was quiet. I was too scared to open the door. I just sat on the floor with my back against it, holding a kitchen knife that I had grabbed from a box I was packing. The police arrived about 5 minutes later. I heard them shouting commands. "Get on the ground, hands behind your back." I opened the door when the officer knocked and announced himself. Nolan was on the floor in handcuffs. His nose was bleeding. Connor was standing there holding an ice pack to his face. His lip was split and his knuckles were bruised. The police took statements from all of us. I showed them the texts Nolan had sent me, the ones where he admitted to touching me and tried to gaslight me. I told them about the incident at Thanksgiving. They arrested Nolan for assault and attempted breaking and entering. Because he had attacked a neighbor, it wasn't just a domestic dispute they could walk away from. There were witnesses. Another neighbor from upstairs had come down and seen Nolan punch Connor. Nolan was glaring at me while they walked him out to the squad car. He looked like he wanted to kill me. He didn't say anything, which was scarier than him yelling. After they took him away, I apologized profusely to Connor. I felt so guilty that he got hurt because of me. Connor was really cool about it. He said he has sisters and he wasn't going to let some drunk guy kick my door in. I packed a bag that night and went to a hotel. I couldn't stay in the apartment with the cracked door frame. The next morning, the fallout began. My mom called me from the police station. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message screaming at me. She said I had destroyed the family. She said Nolan could lose his job because of the arrest record. She said Zara is hysterical and that I am dead to them. I hope you're happy, she said. You got what you wanted. You're the center of attention now. I didn't call her back. I went to the courthouse the next day and filed for a temporary restraining order against Nolan. I included the police report from the assault on Connor. The judge granted it immediately. I also spoke to the landlord. He was understanding, mostly because he didn't want the liability of a broken door and police involvement. He let me leave immediately without penalty. I'm currently staying at the new place with my friend. I haven't told anyone in my family where I am. I changed my phone number yesterday. I did hear from a cousin who I'm somewhat close with. She texted me on Instagram before I deactivated it. She said that Zara is telling everyone that I had a mental breakdown and attacked Nolan, and that Nolan only went to my apartment to check on me because they were worried I was suicidal. She's spinning it that Connor attacked Nolan unprovoked and that I lied to the police. It's amazing how deep the denial goes. Even with a police report and a witness, Zara is still protecting the image. She's standing by him. I guess Nolan made bail because he's out. But with the restraining order, if he comes near me, he goes back to jail. I feel numb mostly. I don't feel like I won anything. My brother-in-law is a predator, my sister is an enabler, and my parents chose the lie over their own daughter. I'm grateful to Connor. I sent him a gift basket and offered to pay for his medical bills, but he refused. I'm going to focus on my design courses and try to rebuild my life. I don't think I'll ever speak to my parents or Zara again. It hurts, but it hurts less than being in that house knowing what they really think of me. I keep telling myself that I did the right thing. I protected myself. I didn't let him get away with it. But it's really quiet in my new room, and sometimes I wonder if maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut at Thanksgiving. Maybe if I had just ignored it, I would still have a family. Then I remember his hand on my neck, and I know I couldn't have lived with that. So that's it. I'm starting over from scratch at 24. No family, new apartment, new number. It's scary, but for the first time in a week, I slept through the night without waking up terrified. I think I'm going to be okay, eventually.